Yesterday, I posted a video announcing that I was starting this book, and in one day, I've already finished off the first play. This is Agamemnon by, how do you pronounce this? Aeschylus, which is the first play in the, how do you pronounce this one? Orestia. Sorry, guys. Hopefully, the whole review is not like that. Now, the Orestia is a trilogy of plays. It depends where you go on the internet. Some places call it one play, some places call it a trilogy of plays, but after having looked at a few different websites, I'm relatively sure these are three distinct plays that form a trilogy. Apparently, it was all released at the same time. According to Wikipedia, it's the only Greek trilogy of plays that has come down to us intact. There were other trilogies of plays, but we don't have the whole trilogy. We just have bits and pieces of them, apparently, according to Wikipedia. So this is the only trilogy we've got. But I'm relatively sure that each play was a separate night. Oh, actually, I don't know how they performed it. Maybe they did do a marathon performance of all three of them, but I'm relatively sure that each one is regarded as a separate play. So I'm going to review them separately. This first one is Agamemnon, the first part of the Orestia. Now, as I said in the video I made yesterday in which I was starting this collection, I have, to my shame, not really read these Greek plays before. The exception is Antigone, because that was assigned reading in my 12th grade English class. But for the rest of these, I've never read the classic Greek plays, even though I do have an interest in Greek mythology. So I'm familiar with the characters in the storyline, and I can talk about that intelligently, somewhat intelligently. But when I'm coming to the actual play and the drama, I'm coming to this as a newbie and will be somewhat fumbling my way through it. So let's talk about the story first of all. The story is Agamemnon, one of the heroes of the Trojan War, in fact, the leader of the Greek forces of the Trojan War, returns home and gets murdered by his wife. Spoiler alert. But actually, something I read long ago, I forget where I read this, but there are really no spoilers in Greek drama. I read somewhere that a Greek person would never say to his friend, "Don't spoil the ending for me," because these were all stories that everybody knew. And they weren't watching the play to hear a new story, they were just watching the play for a reinterpretation of a story that they already knew. So the story is after the Trojan War, which is this big, huge, epic event in Greek mythology, the heroes all come home, and they all, or almost all of them, have disasters or many obstacles that they have to overcome and on their way home. The most famous one, of course, is Odysseus in the Odyssey. But if you open up the Odyssey, in the very first page, it's talking about Agamemnon. Zeus is lamenting that Agamemnon got killed by, what's his name? Aegisthus. And that his son has to avenge him, and that, of course, is the plot of this trilogy, the Orestia. And so this is, of course, the Odyssey is not this story. The Odyssey is the story of Odysseus, but it's referenced, and the characters in the Odyssey are familiar with it, even though it's happening over in a different part of Greece. So this is, I always thought this was one of the fascinating things about Greek mythology, is it's not so much a chronological story as it is a web of stories. There are a whole bunch of things that are happening at the same time, and they cross over with each other and they make reference to each other. But I don't think it would ever be possible to write like a definitive account of Greek mythology Certainly not a chronological account because everything is just happening at the same time. Now, the Trojan War is kind of like the big event that stands, I was going to say in the middle, but it's not really in the middle. It's near the end of the chronology of Greek mythology. But the Trojan War is this huge event that does. I don't think there are other stories happening concurrent to the Trojan War. But before the Trojan War, there's all these different stories about all these heroes and their families and their dynasties. And then they all funnel into the Trojan War. But then after the Trojan War, then they funnel out again into all these separate stories. So this is one of those separate stories, where Agamemnon goes home and gets killed by his wife. Now, we don't actually see the murder in this play. It happens off stage. I believe it was a convention in ancient Greek drama that all the action happens off stage. So instead, what you get is just characters given long speeches or interacting with the chorus, which was, like a group of people, I think, chanting. This was unique to Greek drama. It wasn't really one character; it was like a whole group of characters. In the play Agamemnon, the chorus is revealed to be the elders of the old men of Argos, as we find out at the end. But I think in other Greek plays, the chorus is just this like existential voice. I don't know. So the action takes place from the perspective of those back in Agamemnon's hometown, the watchman, who's watching for a sign that Troy has fallen and the heroes will be returning, interacting with the chorus. And the chorus has given us some of the backstory here. Now, Agamemnon's wife has 3 reasons that she wants to kill him. And one reason is that Agamemnon sacrificed their daughter to the gods. So this is another example of human sacrifice in ancient literature. I've been, in my reviews of the books of the Bible, I've been talking about some of the instances in the Bible of legends which have some sort of human sacrifice to propitiate the gods. But here we have it in Greek mythology. The reason that they needed to sacrifice to Artemis, I think, varies from source to source. In this source, I don't know. Actually, let me back up and give the version I'm more familiar with. I think the version I'm more familiar with is Agamemnon, when he was out hunting the night before, had inadvertently killed a stag that was sacred to Artemis. He didn't know that stag was sacred to Artemis. So she wouldn't send any wind, and this whole fleet, which is amassing and out to sack Troy, is just stuck there in the sea. And Artemis demands Agamemnon sacrifice his daughter. Agamemnon doesn't want to do it, of course. But he is, well, again, depending on which version you read, he is ruthlessly ambitious and he will have his war and his victory at any cost. So he sacrifices his daughter. Or he doesn't really have a choice because he's got this whole fleet assembled and all these men waiting on him with food and supplies dwindling every day. They're stuck out of sea, and you can't just do nothing with this fleet. It's got to go somewhere, so something has got to be done. That second explanation is the explanation that is favored in this play. They talk about all the problems. Wind force and waves swell, keep the ship shore-bound. Men sapped of spirit, supplies running short. Food pots and grain jars crapping their contents. Ship plankscape open, frayed cables and riggings, time dragging, each day seeming 2 hours. The flower of Argos, bedraggled and drooping. So, talking about how he's losing his men, he's losing his supplies, he's losing everything. So it's got to be done. Now, sorry, let me back up a moment. In this version of the story, the one here in the play, it looks like it is a little bit confusing because the chorus is always talking in poetry, but it sounds like as an omen, two birds of prey tore up a pregnant hare that everybody saw, and Artemis had pity for the hare. Even though in this version it sounds like Agamemnon really had nothing to do with the death of the hare, he was just there watching it. But at any rate, to I don't know if I'm interpreting this wrong, but that's the impression I get from reading this. At any rate, he's got to sacrifice his daughter to get the ships moving again. This is 10 years ago now. This is a flashback to 10 years before the events of this play, back at the beginning of the Trojan War. There is a very poignant description of what he has to go through to sacrifice his daughter, which is a little bit difficult to read, or at least depressing to read. At the same time, I don't know. I found the humanity in the description to be, on some level, I'm not sure if reassuring is the word I want to use, but just the fact that even though we are separated from the ancient Greeks by 2,500 years, and separated by culture and time and language, the fact that they're able to paint such a poignant picture of what it means to sacrifice your own daughter. So her garments stream downwards, the loose flow of saffron, clothes drifting, clothes trailing. She darts them all glances that go through their hearts, deep into them wounding. So she's tied up at this point, and she doesn't want to be sacrificed. So she's trying to plead with her life. She's been gagged. So she can't speak, but she can look at them. A painting, a sculpture that seems to be speaking, seeking to say things, but locked in its stone. They know what her eyes say, that gang round the godstone. Often they'd seen her at meals with her father, in the palace beside his, when they sat at his table, the welcoming table of King Agamemnon. It is, I guess they call these Greek tragedies for a reason. I got hooked on Greek mythology as a young lad by stories of adventure and warriors and killing monsters and all the typical stuff that young boys go in for. But the more you read, of course, about Greek mythology, the more you just get one really depressing story after another. And I guess that was the culture, right? Anyways, that's one reason. Agamemnon's wife, Clytemnestra, has never forgiven him for sacrificing his daughter. That's one reason Agamemnon's got it coming in. Now, the other reason is Agamemnon brings home with him a new woman, the daughter of the king of Troy, who's coming back now as a captive, Cassandra. Now, Cassandra has an interesting gift, or curse maybe. She can see the future. Apollo has given her the gift of being able to see the future, but the curse that no one believes her. And again, there are, I think, various versions of why she got this curse. In this version, I think I'm inferring a little bit between the lines of what's said here, but it looks like the story in this version is Apollo had bribed her to bed. So I guess he bribed her with the gift of being able to see the future. She accepted, but then said no. I told him he could, and then later said no. You've been You've already been given the God vision, though. Um, so Apollo made her pay for her cheat. Yes, no one believed me, not one single word. So everything she knows what's going to happen, but no one's going to believe her. So she knows that both she and Agamemnon are going to be killed by Clytemnestra, Agamemnon's wife. And again, coming back to various different versions of the story, I've heard versions of this story where Cassandra just went very stoically to her death. But here she is bewailing her fate and also somewhat piteously hoping for a painless death. Yeah. Why these tears? These eyes saw Troy leveled, and those who destroyed her doomed also to die. Now it's for me to die, the doorway to death. I pray for a clean blow, no painful convulsions. Now the other thing. Oh yeah. One thing maybe I'll just note in passing here. Two-legged lioness. She's bemoaning her fate again, and she says, fire in me, Apollos, two-legged lioness, tupped by the wolfman. When the great lion's gone, she'll kill Cassandra. Now, what does that mean, tupped by the wolfman? I might be... I'm a little bit cautious in saying this because I'm worried about making a fool of myself, but I think is tupped a euphemism for sexual intercourse. And would the wolfman here be Ajax the Lesser, who raped Cassandra in Apollo's temple at the fall of Troy? I think that might be what it's referring to. I think Ajax the Lesser wore a wolf skin. Am I remembering that right? But this, I mentioned this partly just to explore that theory, but also to just note that there are no footnotes to any of this, explaining any of this. So this is just, I guess, something to note with this particular volume or this particular publisher. I think my knowledge of Greek mythology is good enough that I can get by without footnotes for the most part. And, in this day and age where your knowledge fails, Wikipedia you can rely on. But it is just, I think most modern editions would have some footnotes to help the reader, wouldn't they? Or I guess, I don't know. It depends what the publishers are assuming. Now, having said that, and maybe having boasted about my knowledge of Greek mythology, I have to admit that there was parts of this I didn't know. So Cassandra is being, she's talking to the chorus, and she's saying, Apollo, Apollo, way god destroyer, where have you brought me? What house is this? I tracked down the witnesses, children, babes, shrieking butcher, barbecued child flesh, wolfed down by the father. Now this, I didn't know what she was talking about here. I thought, maybe it's just some sort of metaphor. And the chorus as well initially doesn't know what she's talking about. Now it's got worse. I make no sense of these dense riddles that grow more dense. But then over here we finally get it. Sorry. Where was it? Ah, yes. The chorus eventually figures out what she's talking about. Thyestes eating his children. That I got, yes. Now, I didn't actually know who Thyestes was, so I went to Wikipedia. And it turns out this is all part of the legend of Agamemnon's family. So Agamemnon and his brother Menelaus are descended from Atreus, and Atreus has all these stories in Greek mythology that are associated with him and his brother Thyestes. And in one of the stories, Atreus feeds his brother Thyestes his own children. You can go to Wikipedia and look up the story yourself if you want to. It's a whole long another story. But disguises, he serves his brother a dish. He cuts off the hands and feet so that Thyestes doesn't know he's eating human flesh, and feeds him his own children. Now, Thyestes, when he finds out about this, gets his revenge on Atreus, and it's prophesied that if he has a child with his own daughter, so an incestuous child, then that child will kill Atreus. And that child turns out to be how do you pronounce this? Aegisthus, who is Clytemnestra's lover, and is another reason why Clytemnestra kills Agamemnon, is because she's taken up a lover when he's been away, and he is urging her on to do it, both because he wants the throne for himself, but also because of that ancestral revenge between his father and Agamemnon's father, even though they are both cousins, I guess. That's again, that gets back to the big tapestry that is Greek mythology, right? So in order to make sense of this, you not only have to know the story of the Trojan War, but you also have to know the whole story of the house of Atreus. And by the way, while I'm here, just a quick diversion here with another book I've reviewed on this channel, Dune, which is the House of Atreides, which I believe is modeled on the House of Atreus from Greek mythology. So it's a little crossover with the Dune franchise there. So there is a murder that happens, but it happens off stage. Where is it? The chorus is talking. They can hear Agamemnon crying out twice. And then the palace door swings open to reveal Clytemnestra standing over the bodies of Agamemnon and Cassandra. Oh, I should mention something, actually. I said earlier in this review that I don't believe there were any spoilers in the Greek drama. In Greek plays, everyone knows the story already. However, while you're reading this, Clytemnestra never gives any hint that she's about to kill Agamemnon. Or I don't know, maybe there was some subtle foreshadowing I missed. But she talks to the chorus about how she's eager for him back. When he comes back, she greets him very loyally and talks about how much she's missed him. So it does. I mean, I said earlier that I don't believe spoilers or surprise endings were a thing in Greek drama, but this almost does seem to be setting it up for a twist ending. Like, Clytemnestra, you killed him, but you were so glad he came back. And then Clytemnestra explains herself. I've spoken many words to serve the moment, which I've no compunction now to contradict. How else but by lying and seeming so loving could I have plotted my enemy's downfall? So we, the reader, or I guess the audience, if this was a live performance, find out about her double dealings at the same time the chorus does. And then her lover, Aegisthus, who we talked about earlier, comes out. And Aegisthus gets into an argument with the chorus, which ends with him threatening to kill the chorus. So the chorus He says, you want your first lessons already, I see. The chorus says, comrades, you're needed. Stand firm with me. Draw your swords out. Ready, stand by. Stand by. Not one of us here is afraid to die. So the chorus is refusing to acknowledge him as king. So he's threatening to kill them. So he says, I'm glad that you told me. So go ahead, die. Now, I didn't know that. I didn't know you could do that in Greek drama. I thought the chorus was just this kind of like existential, disembodied voice. I didn't know that characters would actually get into fights with the chorus, or that the character could threaten to kill the chorus, or I don't know, like what would the Greek audience have made of this, right? Did the Greek audience think to themselves, ooh, is he really going to kill the chorus? Is this really going to happen? Would that have been a possibility in Greek drama? But and it's here we find that the chorus is like the old men of the city. The old men of Argos, I believe, is the town that this is happening in. So yeah, that's the story of Agamemnon. Most of it just kind of people standing around talking and recounting the backstory. Now, having given the story, maybe I should talk about the reading experience of this. And now, this is a modern translation. This was published in 1982. I know that seems like it was ages ago now, but that's modern compared to the public domain translations you'll find on Project Gutenberg, which were written in the 19th century and are really hard to read. I've looked at a couple of them. So this reads, I know I complained earlier about a few passages that were a little bit enigmatic and I didn't fully understand, but this reads very smoothly for the most part. And I don't know how faithful this is to the original Greek. According to some people on Amazon, not very, but you'll have to ask somebody else for that. But the translator has managed to translate this into an English style that has rhythm and rhymes, and which is kind of fun to read. So, I mean, here they're talking about Helen. This is a chorus. Helen, wrecker, Helen, hell. The one who first named her knew what was fated. Hell, a god guided his tongue right in. Hell, spear bride, gore bride, war whore in. Hell, shipwrecker, manbreaker, Troy knocker in. From silken bowers scented and flowing with curtains, to seas that are breathed on and ruffled by zephyrs. And after her war host bristling with middle, trailhounds snuffling the vanishing oars spore, tracking the beach ships up leafy Simosis, trailhounds scenting the sea tracks and blood slicks. So I know I ruined that by stumbling over some of the words, but you get the idea. Just imagine somebody else who was better at this was reading it. There's also a lot of rhyming when two characters are talking or when the chorus is talking with one of the characters. So here's Cassandra talking with the chorus, and this is a passage I've already referenced earlier, but let's look at it again just for the rhyme and the rhythm. Apollo the seer god put this power in my head, a god and so lovesick he'd bribe you to bed. I've always thought it too shameful to tell. Shame's a luxury for when life's going well. He got me flat on my back, I felt his breath hot. And did the he-god get what he wanted or not? I told him he could, then later said no. You've already been given the god vision, though. I foretold Troy's downfall, the Trojans' defeat. And didn't Apollo make you pay for your cheat? Yes, no one ever believed me, not one single word. But we all believed all we've heard. But we have believed all we have heard. And so that's Cassandra talking to the chorus. But also when Clytemnestra and Agamemnon are talking, we have that same rhyming. Then stride strong and ready on what we have strown. No, it smells baleful, no blessing or boon. Is great Agamemnon God-struck afraid? No, but I stand by the statement I made. And potentates Priam, would he tread it or not? That Trojan satrap trapeze over the lot. Again, imagine somebody who was a little bit better at this than me was reading it, but you get the point. Maybe as much of a mess as I've made of that. It's fun to read. Might be it's fun to read aloud. It trips off your tongue in a nice way. But even just kind of sitting in a quiet room, which is where I was when I was reading it this afternoon, just having the sounds echoing in your head is kind of fun to read through this. The only thing is, I think sometimes I got so caught up in the rhythm of what I was reading, I forgot to pay attention to what was actually being said, and I had to go back and reread a few passages a couple of times over to actually concentrate on the meaning, as you sometimes do with these kind of books. This whole play, Agamemnon, the first part of the Orestia, is 47 pages here. And that's 47 pages, but as you can see, these pages, because they're a play, are, broken up into small lines. And the reading burden in terms of the actual amount of text or the amount of words that you have to read is not much. I finished this off in, I don't know. It's a little bit hard to gauge the time because I was interrupted a little bit as I was reading it. But if I subtract the interruptions, I think a little over 2 hours is what it took me to read that, which I did in obviously one day. Now, I'm a busy man. It's possible that I'm not going to have 2 hours free every day as I work through this volume. So for the next play, it could be a little bit longer before I come back for my review of part 2. But in theory, if you have some time in the afternoon, if you have a little bit of time in your day, you can knock out one of the classics of Western literature in a couple of hours. If you read a different translation than this, maybe let me know how the translations compare. So I'm going to finish off here and then continue on with, how do you say that? This is part 2 of the Orestia. So that will be the next one.